What if your anxiety, sleep issues, cravings, and constant burnout aren't personality flaws, but actual hormonal imbalances caused by your high performing lifestyle? Today's guest, Chelsea McLeod, was a global executive running a $60 million business when she hit a wall with her health. Her skin was acting up, her sleep was broken, her hormones were all out of control. And even as a fitness professional, she was pre diabetic. That crisis turned into her calling. She's now helped over 250 women, from CEOs to startup founders, ditch burnout, balance hormones, and finally feel free in their bodies again. Y'all, but before we dive into this episode, you already know what time it is. With me, y'all.
Welcome to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast.
Y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. It's your healthy habits and lifestyle coach, Jovonnie, the space where we are breaking free out of those survival modes, y'all, from the pain, the fatigue, the bloating, the hormone chaos, to reclaim our energy and rhythm naturally. Welcome to the Good Vibe Studio, Chelsea.
It is so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Great to have you here. So you were already healthy by most people's standards, yet you were battling polycystic ovary syndrome, weight fluctuations, and insomnia. What woke you up to the fact that normal wasn't really working for your body, let alone your life?
There just came a point where I was so snippy, so grumpy, so unhappy in my body that I just had to do something about it. And, that was the day. I remember the first day I didn't sleep. It was when I was about 13. And I remember the first night I did sleep was when I was about 30. And so it was 17 years of just trying to figure out my body and not feeling at home. And so there just came a point where I was like, you know what? It is time to really take this seriously and start to make some changes.
I love that for you, because that's a long time to not really sleep and be comfortable in a body that you're carrying around and every single day. What do you feel like really helped shift you within those years, those 17 years? What was that shift look like? What was that moment to say, you know what, I deserve better? And then to kind of describe that shift. What did that shift look like?
It's actually funny. It was COVID that slowed me down because I was moving so fast that I didn't have to feel. And so that was kind of my strategy, right? It's like, if I just have enough caffeine and enough sugar and move fast and teach all the spin classes, then I don't actually have to deal what's going on here. And I can kind of create this fake energy to propel me forward. And being forced to slow down and stay inside of a house for, I was only allowed to leave for 2 hours a day because I was living in Melbourne, Australia, which was the strictest lockdown in the world, which was not a vibe. But that's what really forced me to take a hard look at this and start to take it seriously.
I love the fact that you said moving so fast that I didn't have time to feel. And I feel like a lot of people don't even realize that that's the cycle that they're in. And that's how they're kind of navigating through life. Is it's like, it's fast, day by day. Time is limited and it's going. And I don't want to feel. And maybe it's I don't want to feel because I don't know exactly how I'm supposed to feel. Or I don't know if I'm going to like the way I feel. Talk to that Chelsea, or that person that is moving so fast that they don't want to feel, but need to feel in order to shift towards this lifestyle, this living, this way of being, so that way they could really elevate their life and go towards something that they really deserve, Chelsea.
It's so hard because I think to do this kind of work, someone has to feel the genuine desire, right?
Yeah.
Because when you motivate with fear, like, oh, you're going to get a disease and you're going to burn out, it's like, yeah, but I'm not. I'm okay where I'm at. So I think for this type of person, what I don't do is try to go pull people and say, you're going to regret this, but I get the people who are ready for change. And sometimes there is a mechanism of saying, hey, like, you can wait, but the hole gets deeper. And it's so much easier if you're actually aware of I don't like the way I feel, but how would I rather feel? Like having someone actually sketch out what life looks like on the other side. It's like, okay, well, I wake up tired. How would you rather feel? Because once we can kind of, the arrow follows the target, right? And so if we can set a really good target and help people understand how they'd rather feel and look, then we can start to map back the habits that really support that plan.
And I'm glad you brought the word in, habits that support the plan. What role have you seen habits truly take place? Because I don't think people recognize that they have habits every day. They just see it as a way of living or decision making. What have you really seen in regards to habits that have really awakened some of the people that you've been able to help, or even your own journey? What did those habits look like prior to you making that genuine change, that desire to genuinely change, to get just a little bit deeper?
I think the habits are almost a product of a way of operating. And the way of operating is kind of derived from different beliefs you have, right? And so without getting too deep and having to put our snorkels on, it's like at the end of the day, these women that I work with, because they're busy, driven women who own businesses, who have kids, who's doing all the things. It's like they have just operated in survival mode for so long, so that their habits are a product of the way they operate. And the way they operate is like full throttle. There's no time to rest. I'll rest when I'm dead. I'm not worthy of taking care of myself. Other people need my help more than I need my help. Putting their needs last. Like there's so many different beliefs and so many different ways of operation that are kind of creating these issues in women's body where they can't digest food and they're bloated after every meal and they're not sleeping at night and they're exhausted and they crash at 2 p.m. and then have no energy left for their families. So it's like we have to look at upgrading the entire operating system and help women feel safe in their bodies, give themselves permission to rest, give themselves the tools to actually take care of themselves.
If anybody is still listening to us and vibing within this conversation, go ahead and drop tool in the comments, because it's all about the tools, Chelsea. I think that's the way. I think that's what people tend to overlook at times, is the tools. What are the tools? And it's not that the tools cure, the tools support, the tools address a holistic approach based on what that tool does and what it has. And I feel like one of my favorite tools is juicing. Like I absolutely love juicing, and it is just a good vibe to get in nutrients. It's helped me regulate my menstrual cycles. It's helped reduce the pain, but it's not just the juice. And I would never say the juice cures, because there isn't a cure for polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, adenomyosis, fibroids. But there's so many tools that support us on this journey that allow us to be able to reduce the things that we don't like and embrace living and moments and experiences that we absolutely do enjoy. And so I feel like having the tools, understanding those habits, and knowing that habits are just, in the words of Chelsea, ways of operating. It's like, what does that look like for you? And I think sometimes it comes back to our mindset, the thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs. They shape our behaviors. They shape the way we operate or don't operate and function. And I feel like spending time there matters. But you just said it, Chelsea. So many people feel like they don't have the time. They don't have the time to prioritize their needs. They don't have the time to take care of themselves like they take care of everybody else. And you kind of talked a little bit about that survival mode when you're just going. How do you take the survival mode person, avatar, experiences, and say, you're worth the change? How do we create that desire, or is that desire something that's already innate? Because we have those symptoms, Chelsea. We talked about it, the puffiness. For me, for the PCOS, for me, was the hormonal imbalances, the unwanted facial hair, the irregular periods, not knowing when my period is going to come on. The longest I went was like 3 months, and people validated why I didn't have my period. And I felt like, oh, okay, I guess that's my normal. Like it's so easy to have that normal tag when things are really not normal until you get older and you start realizing these changes, and it's like, something's not right. So what does that survival mode person need to do first? What are those first maybe 1 or 3 steps, 1, 2, or 3 steps? The first 3 steps, Chelsea, that someone in survival mode can take now, because they're listening to us and they have this little desire to change, but they really don't know where to start.
I think the first part is understanding how it works and the different things that can actually trigger survival mode. Because I think a lot of people think it's just circumstantial. It's from my work, it's from having a kid, it's from all these things outside of me. But a lot of the time, it's from stuff that we are putting inside of our body and choices that we're making. Like there's so many ways that we choose survival mode subconsciously without even realizing that. And so for a lot of people, this can start with very simple things. Like number one, it's just light viewing behaviors in the morning, like getting outside in the morning, taking a shower with a little bit of a cold blast at the end to kind of reset your dopamine levels. Even things like keeping your phone outside of the bedroom so that you wake up and your nervous system is able to acclimate to the day without going immediately into survival mode. Another is waking up to an alarm clock is super difficult for women who are in survival mode. So I tell them to get something called a wake light. So these are just little things that, if we think about it this way, like the way we start our day determines the entire architecture of our day, right? And so if we start it with a alarm blasting in our ear, and then we're looking at TikTok, and then we're scrolling through a bunch of messages that came through overnight, and we're immediately in survival mode and we're in reactivity, as opposed to waking naturally to a wake light, getting some sun on our face, getting some salt water and lemon water, nice and warm in our body to kind of like prehydrate our gut and our bowels and our brain. Like really preparing our body for the day is one of the best things that women can do. And then the other thing would just be looking at food. Like there's so many different foods that activate your survival mechanism. And some of the ones that people are not happy to hear about are like coffee on an empty stomach first thing. I always tell clients to move it after breakfast. And then things like gluten and dairy and highly processed foods are just going to elevate your cortisol levels. And so it doesn't mean we have to cut them out forever, but for someone who's really serious about releasing weight, starting to feel more safe in their body, like those are very easy things to cut out or find substitutes for in the short term until their body is out of survival mode.
I love it. I love it. So first, the light view behaviors in the morning, and I think that's really nice. And I love how you phrased it and framed it as how you start your day. And I don't think people understand the power of how you start your day, and then being honest about that. And actually, I'm actually going to be talking about like a morning routine conversation on a live stream later today. And it's just like, oh, I'm so glad that you hit on this, because the episode that just dropped this week talked about light and the power of light. And I think we underestimate it, and we don't understand the value to it. And we think that we need all these other things, or to do all these other things. They prioritize some of the simple things that we need to start our day. And then I also love that you talked about like the wake up light. I've never heard of the wake up light. Can you like explain what that wake up light vibe is like?
So instead of waking you up to blaring sounds that are going to freak you out, it slowly lights your room up. And it actually is very easy to wake up when the wake light is coming on. And then in case you don't wake up to the light, it just wakes you up with little birds chirping. So I've never slept through it, but it just naturally slowly wakes you up so it can slowly wake you out of your REM sleep instead of blasting it open in the middle of your sleep cycle.
I got you. And I love that you also talked about food to activate the brain and being mindful of that. And I think having the dairy, having the gluten, having the high processed foods just to start the day, that definitely doesn't give your body what it needs to start to thrive and start to be alert and start to be energetic and have that high vibration when it comes to like what exactly you're wanting to experience and the tone that you want to set for the day. And that matters. And for some people who didn't know, you actually play a part in how you start your day and the tone versus what experiences you had that you felt like made your morning bad. And then now you come in and be like, I had a bad morning, in regards to all of that. And I kind of like being able to wake up when I'm doing really good in my routine, waking up and going for a 4-mile walk with my golden doodle Spencer. Like it just feels good to get those endorphins flowing. I don't typically drink before I go because I hate to get out there and then have to go. But sometimes when you naturally wake up, you're already releasing for the body before you even start moving. And so that's always been really good for me. And then after the walk, having my juice. Like after that, it is go mode. My energy is higher than my middle school students or my high school students. I'm lit. And they're like, oh my gosh, Ms. Ford. And I was like, I have my juice. I'm on my juice, y'all. And so it really does play a part versus other people who might not be as energetic and upbeat and ready to go, because again, it goes right back into what you're putting into your body. And so, y'all, if you're confused and you're not exactly sure what you want to put in your body, or you're tired of looking at every single label in the grocery store just to find out some plant-based product or something that you feel is healthy, but it's really still leaving you bloated, sluggish, or in a stuck cycle of inflammation, yeah, check the show notes for the plant-based alternative guide. It makes it so much easier to see the functional nutrition that you can get from different grains, fruits, vegetables, and it comes with recipes for your smoothies, your juices, your meals. So it gives you a little inspiration of how you can truly choose food as a way of healing, a tool for healing to support hormone health, reduce inflammation, and still taste good. So drop into the show notes and grab that link. All right, Chelsea, this is what we're about to get into. All right. I kind of want you to kind of dig a little bit deeper, a little bit for our PCOS posse. What does cortisol and insulin issues actually feel like in everyday life?
Oftentimes it'll feel, shakiness, alertness in your chest. So kind of like rapid heart rate. It could, elevation in your heart rate. Obviously for PCOS girlies, there's a lot of insulin resistance. So their blood sugar could get super elevated, leading them to feel a little bit strung out. Right. And so for me, it showed up as just feeling jittery and anxious all the time. And let alone if I got a stressful email from a boss or something, that would just like send me over the edge. And so it frequently led me to reach for logically what we want when our cortisol is elevated. And we just reach for more sugar to kind of calm down our body's response. And it kind of creates this big loop of inflammation. I also didn't have the tools that, you and I have now of functional nutrition, where it's like understanding not just food from a macro counting lens where it's, protein, fat, and carbs, but it's like we have to look at the micronutrients. And then we also have to look at how different foods can affect a woman who has high inflammation levels, right? And so looking at things like cow's dairy and the way food is farmed, I think people look at every food as equal, but not every food is equal. Not even every vegetable is equal. Like you could have one cucumber from one place and another cucumber from another place, and they're just not the same, right? And so really understanding food quality is so important for the PCOS girlies so that they can understand how different foods make them feel.
I love that. Food quality. And that's a big thing. And I like the way you use the term food quality, because it could be so different having the different experiences of food. And I say different because it is crazy. Like you can get one product and you think it's the exact same, and it's not. Like you have different ingredients in it, you have different potentially pesticides, the different process that it went through. So I really love that you talked about food quality and how foods affect you. And I feel like a misconception, Chelsea, is everyone always thinks, oh, you just have to be plant-based, or oh, you just have to eat this way or that way. And it's really figuring out how your body responds to the things you eat. And it's not just the food, because it's so much more that went to. You even talked about it earlier about the central nervous system. We talked about stress. We talked about sleep. All of those things still play a part in your hormones. It still plays a part in your body. And something, I don't know if you've heard about this, Chelsea, just let me know if you have. Another guest we had on the podcast talked about, people talk a lot more about insulin resistance, and they don't talk enough about leptin resistance. Have you ever heard about that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not quite as familiar with that one specifically.
Me either.
Yeah, it totally makes sense, because anytime your hormones are scrambled, everything's going to get confused, right? And so ghrelin is obviously the hunger hormone, and leptin is obviously the satiation hormone. So there's a lot of people who their signals just aren't signaling. So it makes total sense if they do have insulin resistance that like other things would be off balance too.
Yeah, I was just like, when I heard it, I was like, dang, I never even thought about that. And I do feel like there's a lot of hype around certain aspects without going deeper on the stuff that truly matters, or that really makes the connection to all the other, like you said, signals being scrambled and not necessarily connecting the way they do. So I'm glad you said that. But you're a fitness pro. All right. And so you just said it, the macros, the protein, the carbs. Talk to the people about what is also important other than where do you get your proteins from? Because I feel like for my PCOS posse, and if y'all don't know, PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. So for our PCOS posse, like I feel like fat is important. I feel like fiber is important. And I feel like they don't get enough screen time, alert time, stage time, as much as protein. Why do you feel like people emphasize the protein so much? And what do you think should get a little bit more light?
At the end of the day, all of the macronutrients matter. I think we've skewed so far in the way of protein because we've just overdone carbs and processed foods for so long that it's just an easy thing to focus on. At the end of the day, I think because I think it's really a product of the processed food environment where it's like people are not getting what they need. And so all of a sudden people are realizing that they're deficient in protein. So then we just focus on protein over here. Whereas, 30 years ago it was focusing on sugar and carbs, and so I think we just tend to take these massive swings in one direction or the other instead of just looking at everything holistically. And one of the biggest issues I have is clients come into my program eating 150 grams of protein a day. And they're like, okay, well, I'm not pooping and I don't look the way they want to. And I'm like, okay, so is it working? Like, is 150 grams of protein really working for you? And there's some people where it does work. And it's usually people who are extremely active. They're training for like a bodybuilding competition, sure. But for the average person, like, we don't need to be eating 150 grams of protein, like, especially women who are looking to balance their hormones. Protein is incredibly important. So structuring meals around protein and having a protein rich diet is a great thing. But women who are out here measuring 5 cups of cottage cheese a day to hit their protein macros and they're not even hungry, I'm like, make it make sense.
That part. And I think it just goes right back to not only just food quality, but real food, but having real balance, and knowing what your body needs. And you kind of go on a journey for that. But you mentioned before about helping women lose 8 pounds in 3 weeks without cardio or fad diets. What's actually happening under the hood? What's really going on that people really don't know? And they just think, oh, it's this time frame and this was the loss. What's really happening during that time, Chelsea?
We are working with inflammation weight. That's a product of elevated cortisol, elevated estrogen. We are pulling the body out of survival mode so it feels safe enough to release. So, the methodology I use with women, and they can find this on my Instagram. I have a free ebook that goes through it. But an exact plan of how to do this. It's like, let's pull the coffee after breakfast. Let's have a specific breakfast that's very nutrient dense so your body is getting more of what it needs and less of what it doesn't. And let's just move our body in ways that feel good. So we're not putting pressure to get to the spin class or go on a 10-mile run. It's just moving more throughout the body, maybe lifting some weights, just allowing your body to rest, slow down, eat high vibe, high nutrition foods that are very minimally processed, because at the end of the day, the processed foods it's what's making us puffy. And it's what's making us not feel great. It's what's causing a lot of cravings. So if we can just eat lower on the food chain and just eat real food with high nutrient density, we can lose weight so much faster than if we're just counting calories or weighing macros, but out of a bag or a box.
Thank you. I really appreciate you breaking that down, because as you know, like, social media pick up on any type of trends. And as soon as someone loses a lot of weight, then it's all of a sudden, oh, I need to go do this, or I need to go do that. And I only need to do it for this amount of days. And I should have this weight loss. And I just feel like what we do is more about sustainability. It's about creating a lifestyle around this, not just trying to hurry up and see the numbers fall. And while I do get the numbers falling, boost this motivation, boost this, encouragement to keep going and do the things that you're doing. It's all about the sustainability. And so I just really wanted you to break down why it's not just a fad or what Chelsea's doing in regards to how the weight is being lost. Like, she's still helping you create lifestyle changes that are going to help you throughout life, not just for you to reach a short-term goal and just see the weight fall off. And it's weight that doesn't even need to exist. It's that inflammatory weight that comes from various factors based on that person's body and complex history. And so I appreciate you for breaking that down, Chelsea. So let's talk a little bit about that emotional stress. How does that emotional stress show up as symptoms? Can you kind of unpack the link between unprocessed emotions and the things like PMS or anxiety or poor sleep. Can you kind of tell us a little bit more about that?
The way I think about emotions is they are just energy and they carry a frequency in your body. So when they are not fully expressed, they're going to lodge themselves in your body and show up as hormone symptoms or disease. And so for a lot of women, when they're operating in chronic survival mode, their hormones are so imbalanced that they're holding on to this energy and it's showing up as things like carrying extra weight. When they're not expressing the emotion fully, it's going to literally sit in their physical body. And so it's not just weight though. Like anxiety is oftentimes just unexpressed energy, right? And so a lot of the time, if we're not fully metabolizing our food, metabolizing our emotions, slowing down enough to really process and like pick apart what's going on in our day, because women are in back-to-back meetings and they're not digesting their food and wondering why they're getting bloated because they can't digest food because they're in survival mode. It's like we can just see all these symptoms always mapping back to a specific emotion that's not being felt. And so I'm a health coach, so we have all the protocols and we do all the lab testing and all the things, and that's great. But at the end of the day, it's teaching women the skill of emotional intelligence so that we're really addressing it at the root and not just trying to put band-aids over little habits.
I like that. And that goes back into going deeper, what we talked about earlier, and being able to find that hole and have the conversations to be able to know what's actually happening. And I really appreciate that unexpressed energy could really show up as that anxiety, and just really having, I like that, the skill of emotional intelligence. Like that's powerful. I feel like there's times when I don't believe enough people value the journey of getting to know themselves, getting to know their body, being aware, honoring the root of what's really happening versus just seeing, like you said, band-aids, putting something on the surface and going within. I don't know about you, Chelsea, but I feel like for me, being diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, and when they went in for my surgery, finding 2 small fibroids in my uterus, I didn't know all these things were happening in my body. On the outside, I was just thinking about, okay, well, I feel pretty much healthy. I rarely get sick. I move around and I think I'm okay. And you think you're okay. You think you're doing well. And then something happens in your body showing these signals. And it was like, I was ignoring these signals for years. I didn't have boundaries. I didn't prioritize myself. I allowed other people to, take priority over their needs versus my needs. I didn't rest like I needed to rest. And it was just a lot of different things. I was in environments that I shouldn't have been in, or long-term like spaces that could be toxic, or in relationships with toxic people, toxic things. And I just feel like when you're going and you don't really know, it takes your body really showing up in a different space and responding to you in a different way to say, hey, I'm not okay. What are you going to do about it? When are you going to do something about it? I'm ready when you are. Let's go. And I think because we see ourselves as having to change, that level of grief when it comes to change, that level of discomfort when it comes to embracing a new lifestyle change or healing journey, or really figuring out what's really going on, that takes a very, very vulnerable, strong person to say, hey, I have the courage. I'm ready to change. How do we do this thing? And sometimes it gets comfortable to sit in that. What is some of the support that you provide to people when they're coming and it gets really hard, it gets really uncomfortable to sit in some things that they never really wanted to have to sit in, but they know they have to in order to go further?
Having someone to hold you through those transitions is so key, because that's the moment where most people give up. It's also their biggest growth edge, where the biggest transformations happen. And so this is where it comes down to mindset coaching, right? Like every week I sit on a call with my clients and we really talk about how you behave when things get hard. And, as an athlete, I was a hockey player, I was a boxer. And so like, I understand this, but not everyone has played sports. And so they really like spending time in my energy, understanding like, hey guys, like the moment you want to give up is the moment you're about to completely evolve. And like, we have to understand that all the challenges that we bring in and all the symptoms we bring in, all the disease, all the whatever challenge people are going through is something that we've called in to learn a specific lesson. And when we start viewing challenges from that lens, it really changes it from, oh, poor me, this happened to me. It's like, oh, well, this is actually happening for me to help me go through my process and my transformation. And so a lot of women, I just see them grow so much as far as how they think about themselves, how they think about how they treat themselves. Because when things get hard, it's very easy to kind of throw everything to the wayside. But it's actually the most important time where they get to choose if they're going to lean in or back down. And I think sometimes preempting that and helping them understand that there will be those dark moments, right? Like I think about it like a spiral staircase, right? And one side is well lit, it's beautiful, it's sunny, and one side's dark. And it's like, even on those dark sides of the staircase, you're still going up. You're not backtracking. You're higher on the ladder, but it's just a dark period. And so understanding that there will be those shadow moments can really help people move through those times with a little bit more grace and patience with themselves.
Come on with the grace and the patience. I think that's what people need to be reminded of, like to have those moments. And it kind of goes right back to the beginning, Chelsea, when you're talking about like fear tactics or, making them feel like this is a fearful experience or type of things that you want to run away from, and being able to really have that empathy and honoring and being nurturing with the relationship, with the experience, with the journey. I think that's really powerful. But I love that you talked about the moment you want to give up is actually the moment when you get to evolve. And I love that, because it's so easy to keep going and going and going at something and just not knowing that your breakthrough is on the other side, because you can't see. And because you can't see, it's because you've never gone through this path before, this journey before. You're charting your own experience, because it's your own personal healing journey. Mm-hmm. No one can tell you you can't even tell them what's on the other side, but you can let them know that it's worth keep going versus what you've experienced already in the past. So I love that. And I like to lean in. You're either going to lean in or break down. And even if you feel like you got to have the breakdown, break it down and then still lean in and don't fall back. Like I'm all with it. No boxer stance or nothing. Don't have the boxing background or the hockey background. But I absolutely love that thought process, that mindset to have in regards to that, Chelsea. So thank you for sharing it. So let's talk about your signature approach. All right. The healthy hustle. That method is definitely different from the traditional nutrition, fitness, and hormone programs. How and why, Chelsea?
It's a little different because it's for women who want change. They want rapid change. They're not here to muck around. They just want to get the exact cheat codes to release the weight, look the way they want to, heal their sleep fast, start to get those rapid results. And so therefore it's holistic. We approach everything from every single angle, from how are we sleeping? How are we eating? How are we behaving? What emotional pieces are we working on? And also cleaning up things like meal timing, cleaning up things like specific removal of specific foods in the short term, with the long-term goal of this being something that you can eat whatever you want in specific proportions that make sense for your body, right? And so we talk about, the fuel versus fun split when it comes to food. It's like, can we do 80% whole food and 20% soul food, where it's like, I just want the donut. I just want it. And it's like, okay, give yourself permission to have it. It's just 80-20. And that works really well for most women, because they're not women who are at home cooking all day. Like they're in boardrooms, they're on planes, they're taking their kids on vacation, they're traveling. Like they're going to happy hour with colleagues. Like they have social lives. And so the whole thing is making this actually fit within a very busy woman's lifestyle is what makes it a little bit different. And, because we take a hormonal lens, it's a little bit more precise than some health coaching programs where it's like, eat vegetables and exercise. And it's like, yeah, do that. But like, here's a whole bunch of other stuff that's backed by science that's going to help get your hormones back into balance faster.
I love it. Come on with the healthy hustle. For me, it was that they want real change and they are ready, because sometimes people think they're ready. They want to be ready. And then when it's time to start making the changes, ready to put things into action, ready to start shifting some things around, it's like, I thought I was ready, but I'm really not ready. Yeah. And I feel you on that. So I get it. And I love that you talked about the fuel versus fun. and that 80-20. Because sometimes people get this misconception that when they go all in, they're so all in that they have to be perfect and they have to uproot and change every single thing, and they can never enjoy this or that anymore. And so I love that. I call it the mindful eating approach, when you're able to truly eat with the purpose, eat good food that's good for you, but still have fun with it and not feel ashamed or punish yourself for eating something that you feel like didn't really serve your body or elevate your life or your nutrition the way you would want it to. So I love that, and know that you're giving yourself the permission to either have it or don't have it. I like also, Chelsea, because I love this approach too, is being able to expose them to different things, different food that they probably wouldn't consume, or different ways of approaching their meal in a different aspect, and making just a few shifts on their plate different, their entire plate a little differently. And as they keep going and navigating, I'm a big component of not necessarily telling people what to eat, because I never want them to be dependent on me when it comes to after they're done with the program. Now, like, okay, well, what do I eat? Somebody tell me, what do I eat? What do I eat? And it's more of having that conversation of planning. What do you plan to eat this week that's going to help you reach your goals, that best aligns with your body, that makes you feel good, that you're open to experiencing? And I love the trial and error in it all too. Like, you tried something and you didn't like it. Now you know not to go after that again. But what else? And it's having that open-mindedness, that growth mindset to say, hey, I'm willing to grow and go in the direction that I know I deserve to be in. So let me just go do this thing. And having a coach is definitely that accountability piece. Because if you just did it by yourself, sooner or later, you'll just kind of start pulling back, and you start leaning back towards the things that you didn't necessarily want to go back to. You wanted to change. You was ready to get in that healthy hustle. And so I'm really glad about it. Can you tell us a little bit about what functional testing or data do you use to really pinpoint what's really off with people because you use this holistic approach?
Typically, the tests I run with women we do hormone testing, and this is different than doctors testing, right? So the way I explain it is, doctors are looking for disease. They're trying to keep you alive. That's their job. And we love that for them, because we need that. We need to stay alive.
Need to know.
On the functional side, we are looking for imbalances that explain why you don't look or feel the way you want to. So is the doctor the best person to go to when you don't feel great, and when you're kind of tired, and when you have gut issues, and when you feel overweight? Probably not. Like, it's always good to rule out things like specific diseases. Obviously, go get your blood work done, go to your doctor for your checkups. But when we are trying to optimize the body and optimize how you look and feel, they're not the man for the job. It's like hiring a plumber to fix your roof, right? And so I think so many people are frustrated when they go to a doctor and try to get answers, and the doctor says your bloods are fine. And it's like, yeah, by his standards, they are fine. Like, you're not dying. You don't have a disease. He's done his job. But when we see tests from a functional side, it's a totally different story. So there's so many women who their doctor's bloods are fine. They come to me and I'm like, whoa, okay, here, everything's all sorts of out of whack, but here's what we do about it. And so the difference between like a doctor and a functional practitioner is, doctors diagnose disease and functional practitioners help you actually identify the root cause and build an actual holistic plan to get you where you want to go, as opposed to, a prescription, or saying you're just going to have this for life, which is typically the solution people will get from a practitioner whose job it is to keep you alive. It makes total sense. And so I think a lot of people are kind of frustrated with the system, but they're actually not using the system properly. And so we'll look at, we'll do slightly different testing. It's saliva testing. We'll look at the thyroid. We'll do gut, like very detailed gut testing, because gut and hormonal imbalances go hand in hand. We do hair tissue mineral analysis to look at what's the condition of your adrenals. Like, do you have adrenal fatigue? Are you excreting too many minerals? Like, what are your mineral levels, your vitamin levels? And we will also look at, what else we look at? We look at food sensitivities, which are very common in women, that cause a lot. For PCOS girlies, I'm like, yo, go get a food sensitivity test. We got to pull out everything that's inflaming you, because you can't take any more inflammation.
Agree. And I love that you broke down the difference between that functional practitioner and the actual like medical doctor, and realizing that everybody has a specialty. So everybody plays a part and plays a role. No one's higher or lower in the chain, but it's how you navigate, use them, and when you need them to amplify the journey. So I'm really glad that you broke that down. And I love that you talked about the food the food sensitivity, because so many people eat things and they don't know why they feel the way they feel afterwards. They don't realize they may be allergic. They may think that, oh, I'm eating these fruits and vegetables, but those fruits and vegetables aren't necessarily what your body is thriving on, because there's certain fruits and vegetables that your body doesn't respond well to based on your makeup. And so I'm glad that you kind of hit on that, because I had another functional doctor or functional practitioner talk about those things as well when they're running labs, to see what fruits, what vegetables, what foods really support you in regards to your own unique body and system. And so I'm glad that you talked about it and kind of the array of panels, because some people, the biggest part and biggest bar that you said, Chelsea, was the fact that they're not using it properly. You think that you have to go to the doctor for every single thing, and it's finding which practitioner do you really need in this space based on what you're experiencing. So kind of give people a little insight. Maybe this is the first conversation they're hearing where it's like, okay, I don't go to the doctor for everything. There are functional practitioners. Who should I really be looking for in my area, in my network, or around me that could best support me? What does that look like when it's time for me to go to a integrative specialist or functional practitioner versus me just going to the doctor? Who are those specialties I should be researching first?
So it kind of depends on what the goal is and what the symptoms are, right? So for someone who has very serious chronic conditions, they suspect endometriosis, PCOS, like we always want to start with the doctor to rule out disease, right? So we always got to start with the doctor, start with them. Even endocrinologists can be great, just to make sure that there's nothing seriously wrong that like someone like myself or you couldn't help out with, right? From there, once we have those answers, if we don't leave with a plan or we don't leave with any kind of care plan going forward, that's where you can really bring in a functional dietitian, a functional health coach, which is what I am, or just any health coach, to really look at what I always tell people is when they're going out there to select practitioners, find someone who has the results that you want. Like ask that specific office or that specific practitioner about their client outcomes. Like, what are the results? Like, what kind of women do you work with? What kind of results do they have? You look at their social media. What are people saying about them? Read their Google reviews. Like, I think so many people just go flying blind in the process because they just expect to get the top-notch care from some random on Google. And it's like, you didn't put in the work to be getting good service. Like, we have to remember that we are responsible for our outcomes. And so, getting a referral, like talking to people who have done it, who have the result that you want, like how are people doing this? And, I work with clients remotely, so I work with them all over the world. So, and I know there's hundreds of people who do what I do. So it's just kind of a matter of looking for, I would recommend functional dietitian, like integrative health practitioner, someone who really has experience working with women's hormones, complex conditions, to make sure that whatever condition you have or whatever issue you have or whatever goal you're trying to get to makes sense for that specific person.
And I'm glad that you took the time to break that down, Chelsea. Thank you, because I feel like even though they may look up for this person, look up the functional nutritional, look up the integrative health specialist around, they look for the reviews, they go to their social media if they have one, they're Googling it, but actually calling and asking the questions. Like, you want top-notch service, make sure you do some top-notch validating and screening on someone before you expect them to really take care of you. Like, you're already highly valuable yourself. But I really love that. And then you talked about finding someone with the results that you actually want. That's powerful within itself. And I was actually going to ask you to kind of share what's one story that really sticks out with you about a client transformation.
I had one client who was approaching her 40s. She was 39. She'd gone through a number of really, really challenging personal circumstances. So she lost both of her parents in a very short period of time. She was in the middle of a divorce with her husband, and she was dealing with, she got really bad thyroid labs back from her doctor. She had diabetes. She had gained 70 pounds. And, she had owned a business and had to close her business when her parents got sick. And so she was used to operating at a very high level, owned her own private practice. She was absolutely crushing it. But as she started to go through some of these really difficult life transitions, her body couldn't keep up with the same amount of stress. And she came into the program very defeated, very broken, very exhausted, didn't know what to do, looked herself in the mirror and said, I don't recognize that person. Like, that looks like my mom, not like me. And, we made some tweaks. We started small. We got her moving. We got her eating the foods that were right for her hormones, which are totally bottomed out. We started to heal her blood sugar, and she hadn't slept through the night in 6 years. And 3 days into the program, she had her first night of uninterrupted 8 hours sleep because she
Let's
just started.
go.
Right. And it's like when you take those right supplements, when you eat the right food, when your food timing is on point, it's just your body can heal so fast when you give it the raw materials to do so, as you know better than anyone. It's like, this doesn't have to be hard. If the intention is there, you can just hit the ground running. She lost 60 pounds more. She lost 70 pounds. She reversed all of her thyroid markers that were elevated or low. She no longer has diabetes. She looks like a different person. Like, she's almost irrecognizable. And so and she was also almost perimenopausal. When we looked at her labs, like, her estrogen and progesterone were so low that you would have almost thought that she'd gone through menopause, but they came back up. And so it's just that, like, there's so much healing when you're really ready to do that work.
I love it. My favorite quote was, it doesn't have to be hard if the intention is there. And to go 6 years without being able to sleep and then do 3 days, being intentional and getting that result, and knowing, like you said, the body, it doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't take long, but the right protocol with the right diet, the right routine, the right ways to really showing up and responding to your body based on the messages and the signals and the signs that it's been telling you and showing you, it doesn't take that much. And so I'm really glad that you were able to share that story. And I'm so happy for your client, and I'm so grateful for you with that work, with the work that you're doing, and was able to help her and support her the way that you have. For the women that are listening who don't want another crash diet or intense plan, everyone thinks it might be intense. Like, I think so many people think it's about to be this intense thing. I don't know if I'm really ready for it. What does realistic, sustainable hormone support look like in daily life, Chelsea?
We start small, like, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's food timing. It's tweaking what you eat, the timing of it. Moving your body more in ways that feel actually good in your body and that aren't fueled
Mm.
by, when the mindset isn't, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the spin class because I don't wanna be fat." It's, "Oh, I'm gonna go do this because I actually enjoy it." So we do so much out of obligation because we feel like we should, but when we can take that from should energy to, what do I actually wanna do right now? And I think a lot of women get really confused because 'cause they're like, "Well, I wanna go eat a whole block of cheese." And it's like, when they actually sit down and, like, metabolize the emotion and feel through it, they're like, "Oh, wait, I don't wanna eat a whole block of cheese." It's just like, when my body is in survival, that's what I want. So when they start to firm up their connection with their true self, with the source, with, for a lot of, I'm not, it's not a religious program, but for a lot of women, like, they maybe believe in God or they have a spiritual practice. It's like, when they start to firm up that connection, things just start to get really different. And for some people, it's just like connecting with self, like connecting with your higher self. Like, she always knows what your body actually needs. And it's not always what we think it is when we're running around like a chicken with our head cut off.
Agreed. You got me at the cheese, Chelsea. I don't know if my other PCOS posses have it with the cheese, but that cheese used to get me all the time. I'll take the whole block of cheese at Olive Garden on whatever I'm having, whether it's the salad or the pasta. Just keep it going. So that cheese, and I'm really glad that you talked about sitting with that motion. Do I really want the whole block of cheese? And giving yourself the moment to pause, reflect, and refrain from actually just going after the block, because you can just go off the block of cheese and just eat it and go for it, but recognizing, honoring the moment, and really just becoming more aware of itself. I think that's very powerful. And so I agree. I love that you said start small. Just because there's so many different things you could be doing or you feel like you should be doing, doesn't mean that all those things need to get done every single day. And so if you can commit to that one small habit that you're willing to adopt, and figuring out how to really put it into your lifestyle, your everyday flow, then it builds the confidence. It starts creating this rhythm that allows you to go and say, okay, I can do this. I feel this. This is good. But then you talked about connecting with yourself. I was going to say a life changer, a game changer, but it's really a life changing experience when you start connecting with yourself on a different level, and then showing up and caring for yourself, loving for yourself, making decisions for yourself, living for yourself in a whole different vibe. And I love that for people who get that opportunity to truly see the luxury in really just loving and caring for you. And it just makes life just feel good and feel different, and things just start changing around you. And so I'm really grateful that you broke that down, and I hope other people were able to receive that as well. So we're going to get into this thing called Vitality Sparks. It's almost like a lightning round. Okay. So I just want you to be honest, but be quick and energizing. And we'll get through these questions. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. One hormone every high achiever should get tested.
Estrogen.
A food you swear by for skin and energy.
Blueberries.
What's a myth about weight loss you're tired of hearing?
That hormones don't matter. The only thing that matters is calories in, calories out.
Favorite non-negotiable self-care ritual?
Phone off 30 minutes before bed.
What's one thing you wish more women believed about their bodies?
That it can heal whenever you decide it will.
I love it. Thank you, Chelsea. All right, last two questions. Give some insight, some wisdom, some ways that men, girl dads, father figures, role models, spouses could play a part in polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, adenomyosis, our ladies, our young girls, our women dealing with pelvic pain, hormonal chaos, heavy periods. How could they be more a part of the experience, the journey?
Obviously, understanding and educating around the cycle, and that a woman's hormonal cycle is different than a man's, right? And so for women, every day should look different based on how their cycle is. And so really educating themselves on the different phases of the cycle, and also understanding hormonal symptoms and how they present in a woman, so that they can understand, like, oh, she's not sleeping at night. She seems to be really anxious. Like, her periods are not normal. Like, I think that's really important for men to understand, because a woman, we're not as resilient to stress as men are. And so I think sometimes when we can see stress show up in a woman's physical body, it just makes the stakes higher of understanding that, so that they can support women through those moments.
I love it. Thank you. Education, understanding those phases of the cycle, but then being aware of those signals, those symptoms, and knowing that women aren't as resilient to stress like men. So what can you do to help them de-stress, eliminate, and get the stress out of their life? Okay, Chelsea, last question. If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would y'all eat?
Oh. I've been studying Buddhism lately, and I'm like, give me Buddha. I've got some questions for him. We'd probably need to eat something vegetarian.
All right. So something vegetarian with Buddha. Oh, okay. I'm with it. Thank you. All right. So let everybody know where they can find you, how they can connect with you.
Best place to find me is Instagram, Healthy with Chelsea. I'm also on TikTok. And if women are interested, I have a podcast. It's called It's Not You, It's Your Hormones. It's on Apple and Spotify. It has all the things. And there's some free resources on there as well. I have the Busy Girl Guide to Hormonal Weight Loss. So for women who want to overlay a hormonal lens on top of what they're already doing, it can really help women get some rapid results.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, Chelsea. Y'all, it's been another amazing episode of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. And I just wanted to let you know, if you are tired of quick fixes that aren't healing, and if they really work, then you wouldn't really be still stuck in pain, battling fatigue, and wondering why nothing is changing. I've been there. I've tried certain things. I've done the fads, and they really weren't it. But living with stage 4 endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, I saw that pushing through the pain and ignoring the signals each day until my body said, you know what? I'm going to have to force you to shut down and cause a shift. I created the M to the 3rd degree healing empowerment formula just to be able to find a way to live, survive, and be sustainable to get ready to thrive. And I want to share it with you. So in the show notes, there's a link to my Empire Reset training. Check the show notes, register for the upcoming training, and come vibe with me, y'all. It's been another amazing episode. Thank you for tuning in. And if you haven't started following, make sure you follow the podcast, leave a rating. And if you're watching on your favorite YouTube platform, make sure you subscribe as well. We out.